as I suggested on this show on Monday, when Jason Beattie was on, this government stands ready to throw another dead cat on the table as soon as today is over. There are reports that on Thursday, Rishi Sunak is finally going to announce a package of financial measures to ease the cost of living crisis, which he's been begged to do for ages. And this page shows that he really needs to do that. It's got nurses using food banks. It's got the fact groceries have gone up 7% in a month. Where are we, Zimbabwe? And Ofgem now says the fuel price cap is going to go up again in October to almost £3,000 a year. But there at the top, we've got Rishi Sunak, the Chancellor, taking a £10,000 trip in a helicopter, because how else would one get to a party in Wales? Now, Lizzie, do we know what kind of measures he might introduce? Is he ever going to tax, I don't know, carbon-heavy helicopter flying multimillionaires?
I don't think they're the top of his priority list.
No, I don't think so either.
Yeah. It's quite a stark comparison, isn't it? I mean, obviously, yeah, the head of Ofgem yesterday making that sort of declaration that we knew that obviously that the price cap goes up, they review it twice a year, and we knew that in October it was probably going to be pretty bad. But this is definitely on the upper end of what has been suggested by analysts. And so it's quite interesting that that Jonathan Brearley, the head of Ofgem, came out and said that yesterday, because it sort of shows maybe the context of what the government's about to do. But yeah, that's the picture. That's the kind of background. Obviously, that's a huge increase. The price cap only just went up in April. You know, people are getting absolutely clobbered by rising bills, rising inflation, all of that sort of thing. And the government
Thanks,
has
Rishi.
been Rishi Sunak's been really resistant to a lot of the changes that have been called for. But the government has been saying for weeks that it doesn't rule out anything, that it doesn't rule out a windfall tax, but just not saying what it will do, what it wants to do. And clearly they've been sort of panicking behind the scenes, trying to figure out exactly what direction they want to go in. There's a lot of kind of conflict between different ministers about how to approach this. Do we want to raise taxes? Do we not? So that's kind of obviously been quite tricky. And I think Number 10 insists that there's nothing in the timing of this, that, you know, it's not an attempt to distract from the Sue Gray report. It's just a coincidence. But, you know, they've been saying for a while that they were going to bring something forward on cost of living, and the fact that it's tomorrow, I don't know, the cynics among you could draw something from that. But
yes, I think we would, quite frankly. You know, day 2 of Partygate, thump, something more important has come along for everyone to talk about. What a surprise. The fact that they were perhaps sitting here waiting for this to happen and then dump it for political reasons while people are suffering and going to food banks, and could have done with the help a week or two ago, is one for their consciences, perhaps. But they have got to do something. Pensions, for example, people on fixed incomes, they've gone up 3% this year, and inflation's at about 10%. So, you know, it means that pensioners are going into poverty. It means that people on benefits are going into poverty. So they've been urged to talk about universal credit and bring back the £20 basic payment, which I don't think is going to. That uplift we had in COVID, they're talking about doing something to try and help people at the bottom. But of course, the people at the bottom are the people they tend to think of least. And they've also been briefings about a windfall tax, but only on companies that don't put enough investment into Britain. So, of course, they'll all put a bit of money into Britain and then not just enough to not pay the windfall tax, and then straight out again, really, is what I'd do. Anyway, Justin says the dead cat was contrived months ago for after the report. They are a joke. If they were a joke, they'd be funny, Justin.
I think it's probably not quite as organised as that, but I do think they are related. I think there are, you know, the timing of this.
Gosh, a disorganised government.
I think
how wonderful.
I know. I don't think they would have been clever enough. And also the picture, to be fair, the picture has changed quite a lot, particularly since the invasion of Ukraine, and the pressures that has put on, you know, global gas prices, the sanctions on Russia, the food shortages, that sort of thing. That has all put pressure on the market as well. And I think, you know, the Chancellor originally wanted to wait until later in the year, basically, because they knew that price cap was going to go up, and so they wanted to wait until maybe, you know, September, that sort of time, this end of summer, before they acted. And Rishi Sunak sort of tried to express it very badly by saying, oh, it would be silly for us to act now when the price cap's going to go up, which obviously landed really badly, because it's not silly to try and help people who are everybody's really struggling.
And he keeps saying, we stand ready, mate. Yeah. It's time. There's no point being ready. Come on, cough. That's how it goes. It's amazing. If we all had his, if we were in his WhatsApp group and had some dodgy face masks to sell, we'd all get £1 billion, wouldn't we? Now, thank you for that, Lizzie. Thank you for explaining. Now, keep asking us your questions, everybody. What do you think about Partygate? What do you think about what Boris is going to be going through today? What would you like to see Rishi Sunak do in terms of easing the cost of living crisis? Do you want him to raise benefits? Do you want him to tax businesses more? Do you want him to cut taxes for businesses? There's been so many briefings coming and going about what they're doing. They've just raised taxes, corporation tax 6%, and now they're talking about cutting it a bit again, which is still a rise. So it's all a bit mad. Who knows what's going on? Maybe Rishi will deign to tell us when he gets out of his helicopter next.